As the group departed from Rycroft Manor and made their way back towards the tavern, they heard a commotion from inside, shortly followed by a familiar-looking drunken dwarf barbarian tumbling out into the street. As the group approached Barvas, Alistair inquired whether he wanted to come to Silverhaven. Since there was nothing in Rycroft for Barvas to stay for, he decided he may as well tag along. After all, there was a greater selection of wine and women in the city. Alistair went into the inn where only Wendell was still present, wiping the bar ineffectually with the same sticky rag. Alistair inquired about taking a wagon to Silverhaven and was informed it would be 2 silver per person. He paid for 6 and then asked if he could get a cask of ale or a half-cask. Wendell took slight offence at this. Just because he was a halfling, it didn't mean he only had half-casks. After a few badly landing jokes, Alistair was able to get a barrel which would be brought out to the wagon. The group made their way round to the stables where Daniel, the human wagon driver, was finishing hitching the horses up to the canvas-covered vehicle. They climbed aboard, Merrick quickly vanishing within the dim interior. Gloomstalkers. Gera was the last, his age giving him a bit of trouble with his knees. As he was attempting to clamber up, the group heard heavy footsteps approaching. Looking out, they saw a huge half-ogre with blonde curls, bright blue eyeshadow and lips smeared with red. Whether lipstick or blood was anyone's guess. Her pink dress covered in frills and bows contrasted with her green skin. She carried a cask of ale on her shoulder. She bent down and peered into the wagon, pushing in the cask which Barvas immediately got stuck into, and lifted Gera into the wagon. She exchanged a few words with Daniel, and the group gathered that this was Gladys, the owner of the Crofters' Cup Tavern. Then the wagon began to move. With 2 long wooden benches along each side, it was not the most comfortable of journeys, but it was faster than walking. Gera spent more quality time with his sword. Nobody knew where Merrick was, and Septima buried her nose in her spellbook studying some new spells she was learning. Calla and Alistair kept an eye out, Alistair always wanting to be more aware of his surroundings, and Calla excited to see all the new things. Barvas was occupied with his ale. After about 4 hours, the wagon began to slow and then stopped. Looking out, Alistair and Calla saw a cloud of dust about 300 feet ahead. It didn't appear to be moving close or indeed further away, but rather across the road. Daniel persuaded the horses, who were now quite skittish, to walk on a further 200 feet before they point-blank refused to go forward. Barvas, his thirst for drink now quenched, was thirsting for blood. He leapt out, eager for a skirmish. Septima, Alistair and Calla went with him. Gera's joints were too stiff after sitting for so long, and he was unable to get out and join them. The group of 4 crept closer, the sound of hooves thundering in their ears as they saw a herd of giant wild boar charging across the road. Thinking that perhaps they may be running from something, Alistair crept into the bushes to hide. Calla attempted to copy him, crashing noisily into the vegetation and drawing the attention of the panicked animals. Already scared, they charged at this perceived new threat. Barvas stepped out, yelling and waving his cask in one hand and axe in the other. It was enough to draw the animals' attention, and 2 charged, goring him with their tusks. Initiative was rolled. The first 2 boars again attacked Barvas. Then Calla was up, wild-shaping into a bear. Yes, I know that's an owlbear cub, but I didn't have a bear token. Being a Chaos Mistress can be hard work. She moved into a more open area. Septima was up next, using prestidigitation to create sparks and to try to stop the boars from attacking. She seemed to succeed as they were both visibly distracted by what she was doing. A 3rd boar joined the skirmish, charging at Calla Bear, goring her. Barvas went next, flying into a rage and landing 2 attacks on the closest animal. A 4th boar charged Calla, the damage knocking her out of bear form and back to her half-orc self. Alistair landed a sneak attack with his crossbow on one of the boars. The rest of the herd moved closer, but did not attack. Yet. The 2 boars on Barvas attempted to strike him again. Calla flung an ice knife at one of the ones attacking her, missing, but it and those within 5 feet still took some ice damage. Septima blasted the 4 closest boars with magic missiles, taking out one of the ones on Barvas in a sizzle of force damage. Barvas grumbled about how he seemed to do all the damage only for someone else to make the kill, as Calla was gored again. Alistair moved across to where Septima stood, attacking the nearest boar and doing some damage, but the creature was still enraged. 2 more boars charged in. Calla cast a second ice knife, this one hitting and damaging the target before exploding and hurting the other boars close to it. Septima cast a firebolt, the smell of roast boar filling the air as it slammed into the beast. The boar Alistair had attacked set its sights on him, swiping at him with its ferocious tusks. Barvas landed 2 more hard blows, but it was Alistair who finished it off, slashing it with his short sword before using his wand of cure wounds to heal Calla. Barvas was now getting severely pissed off. Calla cast Entangle, capturing 4 boars within her spell. None of them were able to break free of the vines, but she was badly hurt. Septima blasted a firebolt at a boar, missing and instead aiming at Barvas thanks to a natural 1. Luckily, he was able to dodge it. The next 2 boars tried and failed again to break free of the vines. Barvas, in a frenzied rage, swung at one of the boars, finally getting his first kill, slicing its head off. He impaled and waved it angrily in the air, intimidating the other boars into pausing their attack. They stood watching, but not backing off. To be fair, they couldn't actually move as they were caught within Calla's vines. Alistair made another attack, missing with his short sword, but his dagger causing some pain. The last few boars joined the fray. Calla used her action to disengage and backed away, severely hurt. Septima threw out magic missiles, damaging another 4 of the enraged beasts. Barvas slashed hard with his axe, decapitating a second boar and waving its head around in a bloody dance of victory. The next boar was able to break free of the vines, but unable to do anything else. Alistair made a couple more slashing attacks, doing minor damage. The boars within range tried to attack him, but a natural 1 saw them goring each other instead. Calla used her thorn whip to lash out at the nearest one, then cast Shillelagh on her staff just in case. Septima used another firebolt to partially cook one of the beasts. Barvas slaughtered a third, this time kicking the head into the midst of the others. Alistair again made a sword and dagger attack. The boars were beginning to break out of the vines, trapping them, able to cross the difficult terrain to attack Barvas. Calla continued to keep her distance, Septima throwing out spells, whilst Alistair and Barvas carved up the boars. The next 2 fell to Barvas as he sliced into them, the smell of roasting boar making him think of spare ribs. Septima finished off a boar with Witch Bolt, electrocuting and charring it. The final kill went to Alistair as he smashed through its skull with his short sword. Alistair, aided by Barvas, was able to harvest 8 pounds of meat from the dead boars. The threat eliminated, they returned, bloodied but victorious, to the wagon, where Daniel, Gera and Merrick waited. The journey resumed, the second 4 hours passing uneventfully, enabling the group to take a short rest. Evening was drawing in as the wagon finally arrived in Silverhaven, driving through the impressive guarded gateway. The group disembarked. Alistair had some knowledge of the city and felt it best to leave the delivery of the missive to the Silver Spire until the morning. The party wanted to secure lodgings. Alistair knew of 2 inns, the Candlekeeper's in the slum district and the Golden Goblet, which was close by. They strode up to the entrance of the Golden Goblet, 2 well-built half-elves watching the door. They were not keen to admit the group, particularly with a drunk and blood-stained dwarf amongst them, but Calla had a quiet word and was able to persuade them they wouldn't cause any trouble. The group entered the lavish premises, fronted by a reception desk complete with bell which Alistair rang. Harried-looking human woman appeared, plastering a bright smile onto her face and asking how she could help. Alistair asked for 3 rooms, and in exchange for 6 gold she handed over 3 room keys, ornate and even adorned with a teal ribbon. Their rooms were on the 1st floor. Merrick helped Gera and his dodgy knees into one. The girls took another, whilst Alistair decided to room with Barvas. The public areas and bedrooms were all carpeted. Each room contained a large double bed with plump pillows and soft sheets. There was a trunk at the foot of each, empty and open, but with a key in the lock for patrons to store their things. There was also a chest of drawers, a desk with a chair, and a basin and ewer with tepid water and fluffy towels. All of them cleaned themselves up, Septima and Calla lying on the bed afterwards. Calla had never been in such opulent surroundings. Barvas, oblivious, busied himself cutting up some of the boar meat into steaks on the expensive carpet, paying no mind to the blood which seeped into the fibres. The group met back downstairs, the reception leading to large double doors beyond which was a bar and dining area. The tables were set with linen tablecloths, more sets of cutlery than any one person could sensibly require, and comfy padded chairs. More of the same chairs were set out opposite a long and expensive-looking bar, behind which a human man, in the same uniform as the receptionist, was working. Calla and Septima went to sit down at a table, whilst Alistair and Barvas went up to the bar. Barvas wanted to know if the boar meat could be cooked for them. Whilst this wasn't usual practice, a mix of persuasion through coin from Alistair and intimidation from Barvas, attempting to smile politely, the barman agreed. They went to join their companions. Alistair made a detour back to reception where he obtained parchment and ink to pen a quick note which he paid to have sent to Lady Corsair within the noble district. Gwen, or Gwendolen as her manager insisted on calling her, assured him it would be delivered that evening. He remarked that she seemed harassed, and she explained that the establishment owner insisted on pretentious standards. Philippe, the barman, was really called Phil. Alistair answered that we all die alone, and walked off. As he joined the other three, 4 plates and a large platter of well-cooked boar meat accompanied by fine green beans, chantilly carrots and potato dauphinoise was brought out. Barvas and Alistair drew shocked glances and mutterings from the other patrons as they dug in with their hands, but Septima delicately ate, knowing exactly what cutlery to use. Calla successfully imitated her. Dinner done, Alistair suggested the fighting pits in the slum district could be a fun way to pass some time. Alistair knew that the entrances to this district were guarded, more to prevent undesirables from entering the more salubrious parts of the city. It was, however, not uncommon to find nobles at the pits placing their bets and making some under-the-table deals. Some of the guards were familiar with Alistair, and there was no issue passing through to the candlekeepers, where the pits were located. Alistair briefly scanned the crowded bar, overwhelmed by the smell of sweat, drink, vomit, and poor cooking for his patron, but did not see her. He led the group through a door and down the steps to a cellar area in which was located a large arena. There was a second exit via a locked door which Alistair was familiar with, but had no need to use tonight. Flayer Stonefist, a formidable half-orc, was busy taking bets. He was in charge of running things. It was not uncommon for the 4 champions of the pits to face off against visitors. This being a largely magical city, the fighters here were not all about brawn. Some were magic users. The group decided to enter, placing bets on each other to try to make more gold. They would fight against the lesser champions, and, if they won, would have the opportunity to face off against the main champion, Bertha. The fight would end when one of the combatants was knocked unconscious. First up was Barvas fighting against a tiefling man named Hex. Hex was first to go, casting a spell which caused a coating of frost and ice to gather over him and his weapons. Barvas moved in to hit, striking him with one blow as he raged. 3 other versions of Hex suddenly appeared. Confused, Barvas picked off each duplicate before finishing off Hex himself. He was no match for a drunk dwarf with a temper. Alistair was next, fighting a drow woman called Nightshade. She flung spells at him, then swiped at him with a rapier. He did a decent amount of damage, unable to hide in the bare arena, but she was able to heal. It was close, but she was victorious. The group got double their money for the fight with Hex, but lost their stake on Alistair against Nightshade. Here is where I must leave you for now, but we will return soon. Don't worry about Alistair. There are healers at the pit who will see that he survives the aftermath. Hopefully, Gera's knees will soon feel better.